Tell me the truth. No bullshit.
So joining me today is the lovely Preeti, who gave a very breakthrough performance in this film called Girls Will Be Girls, which I think is a very sensitive but very important film, and it's now gearing up for release here in the UK. So a warm welcome to you, Preeti, and thank you for joining us on filmishilmy.com.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, look, I think I'm going to jump straight into the deep end of the film because it's literally it's a very sensitive film. It touches on topics which unfortunately have been brushed under the carpet by our Indian society for a long time, but it very much exists. So I think for you, Preeti, from the onset, when the script and the approach of the makers is sensitive, how much did
Mhm.
that make your work as an actor easier?
Oh my God, a lot easier because this was my first film, and I am so lucky that I got to begin my journey with people like these who are so sensitive, not only about the topics they're talking about, but also how everyone behaves on a set and how everyone feels and who's like everyone who's working in the film, how they are feeling. Because this was one of the most special sets I was on, and people took care of each other. Nobody was yelling at anyone, and which is why I also felt that the kind of topics we are dealing with will eventually come out on screen looking extremely responsible. So I was told about the intimacy that is going to be there in the script by my casting director Philip Sir, and he kind of also assured me that the director Shuchi Talati, the way she's going to deal with intimacy, you be rest assured that nobody's here to manipulate anything out of you. Everything is like literally out there, and we're going to make sure that you're comfortable on set. And that was exactly how it was. We had a bunch of wonderful women working on set, and every time we were having an intimate scene, or every anytime there was some requirement for an actor to be vulnerable, we made sure that the space is like that. And so immediately the booms would go into the hands of women, the clapboards would go into the hands of women,
Mm.
and everything was shut off, and we had this very nice special environment on set to work on. So yeah, I think there's so much to learn from all the people who worked in this film, and I'm really really grateful that it was my first film.
Right. Now, I have to say, I think what I found very fascinating is the girl is trapped
Mhm,
between two worlds.
mhm.
There's the world of this somewhat dysfunctional mother-daughter relationship, and then there's this whole almost imposter syndrome that she goes through at school because she's the head girl. She's supposed to be this woke representative, but obviously she
Yeah,
herself was going against the beliefs she was inculcated with. Um,
yeah.
whilst dealing with that dichotomy as an actor, I think growing up in your life, have you ever faced any dichotomies of the way your character has in the film as well?
Of course. In fact, I too was the head prefect in my school, and I too was, disciplining my friends that you need to be in proper uniform, you need to not have nail paint on your nails. And I think just the moment, because in school I was hyper fixated on, getting my grades right and getting to be this, perfect student. But the moment I stepped out of school is when I realized that none of these rules made sense. And also, like, as an Indian in my early 20s, my coming of age is now. So in the film, this character is going through her, puberty. She's going through all these feelings and all these raging hormones. For me, it happened right after the film. So I felt a lot of these things that Mira was going through after the film. And I was like, okay, that's all my character was feeling. So of course, at least in school, I always wanted to have a boyfriend, but I didn't really go to the extent the daring Mira could go to. I always was just left wanting to have, a boyfriend or to have like a kiss or something like that. But it never happened. But definitely the dichotomies were there.
I think that's the beauty about Girls Will Be Girls. Like, even though it's got girls in
Yeah.
the title, and even though it's centered around a girl, but I feel like it's actually very relatable in so many ways. And it's a very
Yeah.
universal thing, which I think is a very good thing about this film. I think also I think that you got auditioned for this, I believe in 2022. It was like an open audition that you went.
Mhm.
Um, I think again, from what I've seen on your Instagram and from your social media, I feel like you've always had this dream of working in as an actor. I mean, I believe you also were part of theater in your college days as well. So
Right.
for you, when you look back at the way things have panned out, right?
Mhm.
What would you say your expectations were before you even got this role? And do you feel satisfied within you as an artist after doing this role? Because I'm sure everyone always has stars in their eyes. So how important was
Yeah.
it for you either to not have that, at all, in
Yeah.
your journey so far?
I would say that I always had this dream, and maybe there were some images in my head and some ideas of how I wanted it to happen. But the way eventually things turned out, it was so beyond my expectations and so out of my dream. I think this was something me and my co-actor Keshav, which was also like it was also his first film, so it was lovely to share that same excitement alongside him. We would often talk about that. This wasn't the dream because we've never dreamt of something as special and as big as this. So the kind of people I met on set and the kind of people I'm meeting after the film is out here it's just like so surreal. So sometimes it's really nice to not really have a very fixed dream and to not be fixated on how you want your career to pan out, because then it's like just full of surprises and full of excitement and how things are panning out. And again, I'm just like really grateful that I got such an important script, at the end of the day when our film screens and then people eventually walk up to me and tell me, that I never felt so represented on a film. And,
Mm.
I'm just going to share this like very personal anecdote because I as an aspiring actress, I always had this image that before I hit the screens, I'm gonna have this extremely fit, perfect body, the way I see in mainstream cinema. No freckles on face or like perfect hair and like a perfect figure and everything like that. But this film, it really helped me be comfortable in my own skin. Like on set, we didn't have any parameters that you should not have any body hair. We were really just celebrating body hair. We were really celebrating the marks on my face. You're really celebrating those chubby thighs. So I really enjoyed that thing that I could really, I can become an actress without having to go through all these diets and after having to go all. I mean, you should be on a diet if that helps you, but like not to be put under that pressure. So that really was a great, great thing for me.
No, very, very well said. And I think what I'm also
Yeah.
happy about is that we're seeing a lot of sensitive films on sort of sexuality emerge. Like just last year, we had a very brilliant film called How to Have Sex, which did very well.
Yeah.
Circuit. It's a brilliant film. And I think
Yeah.
even now, if we look at Indian cinema, right, recently, even some of the big sort of escapist, sort of big scale films, they've all had very strong women. I don't want to use the word women centric, but stories which are very much heavy on dealing with stories about women that are
Yeah.
so how important do you think it is, especially for India right now? Because we all know what's happening, and it's obviously very horrible with, what's
Yeah.
happened. But how important is it for art to really take center stage and actually start championing these stories a lot more so it really does evoke that social change? Because mindsets are seem to be quite stagnant to a major extent.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's this trend that, films are being made for audiences. I think it's high time that audiences kind of tailor themselves towards the stories. Like, I think it's a huge responsibility on the audience to accept films that are coming from these diverse voices. And, you look at the Indian audience, they're so influenced by films. They're just really copying their heroes out there. They're really copying the violence that is there in films sometimes, or like the misogyny that is there in films sometimes. So it's very important at this stage to have feminist voices, to have that sensitivity in films that do not punish their characters who are exploring their sexuality. That there's nothing wrong in that exploration of sexuality, and it's high time we show it like that on screen, especially like in our film. Any of the sexuality that is shown is not shown in a way to arouse the audience or to give them any ideas as such. It's shown in a way that is very kind to our actors, which is very kind to our characters. Like young teenagers, we're not supposed to look at them and feel aroused. We're supposed to
Exactly.
look at them and feel that awkwardness, and also to accept that, we have these awkward moments in our own lives. So, and oh my God, India really, really needs to welcome these films, and they really, really need to have women not just on screen, but I also feel like women behind the camera.
Mm.
Like there should be programs that really just train women to be in film sets more often, because I could see the difference. Like the set, the way we functioned was just so efficient. It was just so comfortable. I was relaxed that nobody's gonna yell at me on set. So I feel like the more women fill up these spaces, the more it will be, a diverse and like a very inclusive society, which I think is kind of, hinting towards, like, we had such an amazing film in India called Lapata Ladies,
Yeah, yeah.
and we have Payal Kapadia who's taken our film to Cannes. So, and of course, so we really need to understand that this is the year for Indian women and their cinema. So we really need to make that space for them.
And it's quite interesting you mentioned Payal Kapadia because the actress
Yeah,
was also in that. So it was quite a
yeah,
nice little multiverse of strong women stories that was happening there. But no, I'm glad
yeah,
you mentioned the titles and I'm glad you mentioned all of that because I feel like also simultaneously what's happening is that there's also this whole idea of what I would like to term as pseudo-feminism, where
yeah,
feminism is termed by a certain section on social media and in society where it's just male bashing. They think that
mhm,
one species is better than another, one gender is better than another, and that obviously to me just seems like another form of extremism. Whereas for me, it's about
yeah,
equality. I think that's what Girls Will Be Girls does really right, I think, is that because it tries to get that balance. Like Shree's character, for example, had his shortcomings. The father
yeah.
character had his shortcomings, but they were not demonized. Men were not demonized. What are your thoughts on that, especially on this sort of duality that we see on social media and in society nowadays on feminism and such topics, especially
Yeah.
during this film?
Absolutely, I do understand that how sometimes even feminism gets like, hierarchical. Only the privileged section gets their rights, but then there are a lot of sections which kind of are left behind, and their needs are so like left behind. We don't have them involved. I mean, there were protests going on in India for the devastating rape that happened, and there were people coming from marginalized communities, and they were asked to not participate in the protest because apparently the people thought that their rights are not as important as our rights, and we should mix those protests. So it's like extremely classist, and it's very sad state of affairs that is how something like feminism, which like literally translates into equality, is not being practiced. And like, I'd like to take the example of our film, because in our film you see that every character, you try to understand what is wrong with this character. We don't see this character as particularly villainous. Like even Shri, if you look at him, he's at the end of the day a very lonely person. He's just traveling all the time, and this is his way to get towards people. You look at the bullies. I do not first of all endorse anything that they do, but when you have this particular scene where you see where these bullies are coming from, like you see the kind of upbringing they have, the kind of parents they have at home, and how extremely rude and impatient parents they are. You kind of understand that, okay, this is where this behavior is coming from. And likewise, our biggest this character to follow in this film is Anila, that all the time you kind of hating on her, but then you understand, you as an audience you develop that understanding that where this character is coming from, where all her behavior is coming from. So the kind of kindness the film develops towards each and every character, the kind of empathy it develops for each and every character, I think that's very important, and that is something which is um, kind of which will help us not keep equality reserved to only like certain section of people, but like equality should be there for everything.
Very well explained, absolutely. Now, I
Yeah.
think if anything we're going to go by in this film, I think every character is facing neglect of some
Hmm.
form. I think for me, Girls Will Be Girls is not just about a take on the role of women in society. It is about neglect of any form, whether it's
Yeah.
of, whether it's of sexuality, whether it's of anything. Um,
Yeah.
I think similar question to what I asked you before as well, but having done this film now, and understood the sort of layering of each characters, how much has that made you understand about neglect, especially when it comes to innocence being tainted, at such a young age. Because I think we can all agree that school never, I mean, it taught us a little bit. It traumatized us more than teaching us.
Absolutely.
I mean, how much has that really taught you about trauma, taught you about neglect and all these very important themes in our society as well?
Absolutely. While I was in school, I had no sense that, all these, um, like, I remember this one time I was asking one of my friends to, get into the sports club, like get on, like why are you sitting? Just go to the practice. And she told me that she is having her periods and she's not in the position to participate. But then I had this image that what, this is just your mindset that you can't. This is all you're thinking. This is all in your head that periods are going to put you down. I wasn't that receptive to this thinking that something like that could actually take a toll on you physically. Only after I had my own experiences and only after I was in discussion with other women that I did understand that this is not in our heads, and we need that kindness, and we need to put ourselves in other people's shoes to understand that they must be going through something, because of which, like, you always need to have like a kinder perspective towards each other. So yeah, and one interesting thing that happened with the film was that because the script dealt with sexuality, I thought it would be important to, and intimacy, it would be important to, channel this through my parents and to get them on board that I am doing something which involves intimacy. So it did involve like a dialogue between me and my mother, that we talked about sex for the first time in our house.
Mm.
And also through this film, I kind of like opened my understanding towards my own mother, because she had all these teenage experiences, and she was definitely a growing girl once, but she did not discuss about these things. She would tell me instance where she had no one around to talk about these things. So I think the film really like asks us to start things from home. Like, go home after watching this film, talk to your mom, talk to your own dad, talk to what are the things they are going through. And because you are their child, they're not able to express that to you, and then you might be seeing like one side of them that is like kind of being protective towards you, but like also have this dialogue and try to understand where they're coming from, and what exactly they're going through. So yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think
it.
it's so important. I think that's exactly what makes a very healthy, household, I think, is having that
Yeah.
open, because we're so scared of being judged, especially in our society, right? Which actually surprisingly is not just the Indian society. I think generally it's just such a taboo subject for some odd reason. And I think it's very that we have films like this which really start that dialogue very well. But I think, look,
Yeah.
film was a winner at Sundance Film Festival. It did really well. You've been
Mhm.
loved as well. So I think now that you've had this global acclaim, so to speak, two-part question. Part one is, how do you hope going forward now with the roles that you get, especially in the international space, how do you hope to
Mhm.
choose roles that are more character driven and meaty rather than just satisfying or tick boxing? It's a Hollywood project, it's an international project, you know? So just for the sake of
Yeah.
diversity, how important is that for you going forward? And secondly, how do you see yourself as an artist now? I think going forward, what are the sort of stories that you think that will really reach out to you? Because see, even doing serious stuff can really bracket you in as well as an actor.
Yeah. No, of course, it's not about tick boxes anymore. Like I also said in the beginning, like it's good to not have a set desire for where you want to go to. And there's so much experiment happening in the film industry. There's so much experiment happening in theater. So I really want to keep myself open for all of that. And I think it's really at the end of the day, the story. Where the story is headed to, that's really what I'm inclined towards. It doesn't matter if it's like a commercial film or an independent film or a short film or like a series. It doesn't matter. It has to have something really interesting for me to add to my, you know, kind of my box of memories that I take back, that I take with me through this life. And like the kind of set Shuchi offered to me was something so unique and so special. That is something I'm looking forward to in the other sets as well. That there's something to learn while being at that set. There's some discipline that I am in while being in that set. So yeah, and the characters that I'm looking forward to are something like I really enjoyed the fact that while shooting this film, we had like a 12-hour schedule a day and for 36 days. So for that span of time, I wasn't really thinking as myself. I wasn't having any thoughts as Preeti, but I was only thinking about Mira.
Mm.
So any film that really like pulls me out of my own skin, it really like takes me out of myself, and I let another character into myself. I think I'm really looking forward to that. And with girls, I've understood the responsibility of cinema a lot more. And considering how things are in India, I really want to stick around with Indian stories, but also like to take them outside. I have traveled so much with this film that I'm understanding that there are very, very nice big Indian and South Asian communities out there everywhere in America, in UK, in Australia, and they're all waiting for good Indian cinema. They're all waiting for representation. So that's something I really, really want to look into.
Right. And I think also because the fact that you've obviously got Richa Chadda, who I think has had an exemplary body of work, and I think the character she's
Yeah.
played is brilliant, and she's produced the film, co-produced the
Right.
film. I think it's really empowering. But tell me, who else would you say has been a big inspiration for you as an actor? Because I'm sure there must have been someone that you saw and thinking, I want to be like this person one day.
Oh my God, that's such a difficult question because I'm so glad that I'm living in this time that we have so many actors to look up to. And I really don't have one person in my mind. But since you mentioned Richa Chadha, and I would also like to take Ali Fazl's name, not only have they been excellent producers for this film, but they have been great mentors. They both understand that it's mine and Keshav's first film. So they've actually like really backed us up and they've really supported us. And big salute to them because it's very difficult to encourage newcomers into the industry, and they have really really stood by us through all this, and they're really guiding us in our journeys ahead. So I really support actors who kind of are delving into all the platforms of films, not like acting but also taking up into producing, also taking up into writing. So I really look up to all those people who like write their own scripts, and they're getting involved into the behind the scenes of the film. So yeah, all of those wonderful people out there, you're all inspiration, and it's something I really like to do in future. Would be something to do with everything in the filmmaking part.
Right. Now, with Girls Will Be Girls, obviously it's set to release soon. I mean, the ball's already out in the court because people have already their opinions about the film. But I think now it'll be very interesting to see what the Aam Janta, what the public think. But is it back to the drawing room now in terms of for you auditioning in your upcoming projects? I mean, what's the situation now like for you currently?
I love that term. Is it back to the drawing room? Yes, it is. I do have my own little setup sometimes for auditions, and I have support from all these mentors that I have gotten in touch with because of the film, and they're kind of helping me figure out what kind of projects. They're helping me figure out the kind of vision that I want to have for myself. So that's there, but I'm also keeping myself busy. I love films, and it's not restricted to acting. It's also like directing, and it's also I love the camera, so I love to shoot, and I'm also into drawing. So all of these things, I'm really grateful that my family is also lending me that support. That you explore what you want to do for now. But yeah, any acting project that comes up and that's really as exciting as Girls Will Be Girls, I'll definitely plunge into it.
I relate to that. That having your family support in something like this industry is so important because especially
Yeah,
financially, because we never know when we're gonna make our next buck. It's so
yeah,
right. So I'm sure you must be in that same position as I am as well, because it's very difficult, isn't it, to survive, without your family support, right?
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I'm really, really grateful, and also like my sibling, my sister. She's like my third parent, so she's always like there for me, and like we keep sharing our notes, we keep discussing what to do next. And at times when I am like out of ideas and I feel like okay, I'm just giving up, I'm just gonna rest for some time. That they're there to like encourage me and like push me out of the slug phase.
Oh, that's sweet. Well,
Yeah,
look, that's really, and I think it's great, and I think it really is synonymous with a very progressive film like Girls Will Be Girls. And
yeah.
I'm very happy that we've got a very new talented star in the making, actor
Aw.
in the making, star. obviously another great thing too. But I think I'm really looking forward to seeing more wonderful performances from you, Preeti. I think you've definitely got that vulnerability that you need as an actor on screen, and I think that's something which we're looking forward to seeing you more do. Do more in the future.
It's so, so sweet of you. I'm really, really honored to hear about that. Thank you so much.
Right, love it. Congratulations and wishing you all the very best.
Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.
My pleasure's mine. Thank you.
Thank you.